we're going to give a quick presentation and to kind of describe what we're looking at here for our project, and then we would like to open it up for comments and discussion. So again, I'll give you kind of some background on where this project came about, and then Dave Camp is going to describe the proposed improvements, what we're looking at in terms of a schedule, where we are, and so here's a little bit of background. The city did complete a corridor study of the entire Indianola corridor back in 2005, and as many of you are aware, there's been a number of phases of construction along the corridor that's been completed from 2009 all the way through 2016, and so this project is actually the phase 5, so the final phase of the reconstruction along the corridor. When the city adopted our transportation master plan called Move DSM in late 2018. So when we look at reconstructing a corridor, that gives us the opportunity to take a look at, well, should there be any geometric improvements that would be made to that corridor? And so the first thing we do is we now have the Move DSM, which is our transportation master plan, kind of our overarching plan and vision of the city's transportation system. And Indianola Avenue, this section of Indianola Avenue is classified as a regional residential street. It's a street that has a variety of housing types, and they also they do carry a decent amount of traffic connecting things like housing to commercial nodes. And so this street is also identified on the core bike network. It does not have a DART route on it. It does not have a truck route on it, but it is a primary emergency response route. And then sidewalk connectivity, there are no sidewalks along this stretch. So that's kind of a snapshot of the street today. So, and as a background, the city hired a consulting firm, local consultant team known as JEO, to help us with the design and initially take survey and then also do a traffic study to see what's going on the corridor, and then develop some conceptual designs. So we have not started detailed design. We have not prepared design plans. Where we are is we've collected traffic data, we've done survey work, and we've developed some concepts. And this is why we're here. We want to have a touch point to look at those concepts and gain public feedback before we decide to move forward with the actual detailed design. And so Dave will be kind of walking you through some of the concepts that we've developed based on the traffic data, and we'd like to hear feedback on those before we move forward in design. So with that, I'll turn it right over to Dave Camp. Let me make sure I didn't mute you, Dave. Let me unmute you. Okay.
All right.
All right, Dave.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Steve, and thanks everybody for joining us tonight. Just want to go through kind of the current configurations out on Indianola, and as you know, it's one lane in each direction, and we have some shoulders out there. The condition of the pavement is kind of deteriorated, and so and as you look from the south to the north, this is a kind of a cross section looking north. There's a lot of space out there to work with on either side of the roadway. So if you want to flip to the next screen, Steve, what we're proposing for Indianola, Like I said, this is looking north as if you were at Earl May looking up toward Easter Lake Drive. We're looking at a 27-foot back-to-back curbed roadway. So we're currently, it's not an urban section. So we're going to add curbs to the proposed plan. A multi-use trail on the west side of the roadway, and sidewalks on the east side of the roadway. Now, there are some trail sections that are currently constructed along the corridor, and we're going to leave those in place and use those as they were constructed. We are proposing a PCC or a concrete pavement for this section. There's a couple reasons. The previous phases are concrete, and so there's a consistency through the corridor, and also there's a lot of room to get a paving machine through this corridor too. So so flip to the next slide. And so this is just a view of the existing conditions on the top of your screen and what the proposed conditions are on the bottom of the screen. So it kind of gives you a comparison between the two, what's out there today and what we're proposing. So let's see. So if you want to flip to the next. So a couple of the improvements to highlight, and then we'll kind of look through the exhibits, is we're going to install a double left or a dual left turn lanes at Highway 69 down by Earl May. As you know, cars stack up along waiting for the traffic signal down at that location. And what happens is the cars stack up and kind of stack up past Bloomfield Road. So we're proposing to realign Bloomfield Road just a little bit to the north to avoid the cars waiting to turn. So even though we do propose a 2-lane roadway, we are going to add some turn lanes, a left turn lane at Pine Avenue, Meadow Court, and East Southdale Drive. So and as we talked a little bit earlier in the cross sections, we're proposing a new shared use path along the west side of the roadway. We are looking at installing some pedestrian crossing refuge islands to help folks get across the roadway a little safer. And then now that it has curb and gutter and it's an urban cross section, we're going to need storm sewer throughout the corridor. So you can go to the next slide. So this is kind of an exhibit, and I apologize that the roadway kind of angles a little bit, so we kind of shifted the shifted the roadway a little bit to try and fit it on the screen for you to see. So to try and orient yourself with this, Earl May is located just to the top right corner of your screen, and that's Bloomfield Road existing kind of that right in the middle of the screen. So this kind of shows and highlights the dual left turn lanes at Highway 69, and kind of shows where how the Bloomfield Road relocation avoids those dual left turns. So if you want to flip screens, this kind of gives you another perspective, and looking up, it is north, and Earl May is right there to your left of the screen. So this kind of shows you Bloomfield Road, how that gets relocated just to the north of the turn lanes. It gives a little different perspective there. We are proposing an addition of a sidewalk along Bloomfield Road down to Meadow Chase. And this also sets up a future project for sidewalk along Bloomfield in the future under a separate project. So, so go ahead and flip screens a little bit. So, so this shows the a look at Southdale Drive. You can kind of see the trail on the north or on the west side of the roadway or the top of your screen. We're going to use that existing trail as it is constructed today for the most part. You can see that the sidewalk on the east side of the street runs down and actually just stops just south of Southdale. And in the middle of the street, we're proposing a refuge island to help people get across the roadway there. So it's somewhere where you can cross one lane of traffic at a time and stop in the middle and look the other way and cross forward. So, and you can also see there's a proposed left turn lane there at Southdale. So let's flip to the next screen. Now this shows just a little bit between Meadow Lane and Pine Avenue. It shows there's proposed 2 more additional pedestrian crossing refuge. And so you can kind of see on the west side, the trail using that existing trail, and then the trail extends north all the way to Army Post on the west side of the street. So now the sidewalk here is shown on the east side of the roadway. However, that section of sidewalk north of Pine Avenue may not be constructed with the project. There's a few considerations. If the property is redeveloped, it may need to be removed and replaced based on the grading that the development has. Snow removal may be an issue because I don't think there's a house or a property on anybody living on that property. And we've invested in those crossings for the across Indianola to utilize that trail on the west side. So that's something we'd even like to get your input on and see what your thoughts are on that section of sidewalk on the east side of the road from Pine all the way up to Army Post. So if we want to jump to the next screen, we jump all the way up to Army Post on this one. You can kind of see that red area there. That's just a extension of a culvert that just kind of helps highlight, hey, there's a culvert there and we're extending it out. So you can kind of see we have a left turn lane there at Army Post, and we connect the trail on the west side to the existing trail on the north side of Army Post, and so that continues on up to Easter Lake Park. So so that kind of gets to the terminus of the project down at Army Post. So if you want to flip to the next screen, the schedule. So years ago, we did apply for federal funding and received $3 million in federal funding. So I know that folks would love to see this a roadway reconstructed sooner, but this is when the federal dollars become available. So we're proposing a project letting through the DOT in November of 2021, which would lead us to construction in 2022. And following the patterns of all the other Indianola projects, this is a long stretch of roadway and a big project, and the odds of actually getting it completed in one construction season would be very difficult. So we've always let folks know that, hey, when the winter months come, it'll be back fully open to traffic, and then we'll just complete the project the following construction season. So we'll be starting the construction in 2022 and completing it in 2023. So like I say, we're open to any of your questions, comments tonight. If you feel more comfortable sending in some written comments or think of something after the meeting, feel free to contact Zach Erickson, the project engineer. His phone number is here, and his email address, and you can always go to the city web page and look at the project maps and find the contact information for Zach for this project or any other project throughout the city also. So, but this specific project does have its own project page under the engineering department on the city's website, and it has under projects and studies, and we'll have a lot of this information and exhibits and things that you might not have been able to just maybe you saw on the screen tonight and you'd like to get a little bit closer look at them and study them a little bit more. And Steve's showing that page on our website.
So you can go to it. Oh, sorry, Dave. So a couple things. One, we will post the public meeting information such as the PowerPoint and recording on this page, but you can get to it a couple ways. If you go to the city home webpage, there's one thing that to note. You can always go on the main page. There's a thing called Projects Map, and so if you click on the Projects Map, this brings up a map of the city's capital improvement projects. So you could type in your address up here and it will zoom to an area. And then so for example, if you zoom to an area and click on a project, it'll pull up some information, and we'll post a link right here to some projects like this one have their own separate page. Other ones, if it's a smaller resurfacing project, it might just give you general information of when it's supposed to happen and who to contact. So that's one way, is the city's project maps, and that's also a way you can find out about other city public improvement projects. Let me back out of here. Another way you can go is just go to our department's engineering department and project and studies. And then you can see a list of some of the major projects such as this one. We got the Indianola Avenue Reconstruction Project specific page, and that'll kind of tell you about it, what's next. And again, it will include the public meeting information and then who you can contact as well. So there's a couple ways to view this later. But again, up on the screen is Zach's information. He's the project engineer for this. So that actually concludes our presentation. So I would like to open it up now. If you have questions, please raise your hand, and then I will unmute you. And actually, let me go back to the instructions just so folks can see. So the first individual I have to speak, I have Dana Brenneman. Dana Brenneman, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. Let's see if we can do that. Okay, Dana, if you could try and unmute yourself. Let's see.
Okay, did that work?
Yep. Okay. Yep. Dana, go ahead, Dana.
Okay. We live in the Hillsboro development, which is on the east side of Indianola. And it appears like you have a couple pedestrian islands that would be in between our east side development and the west side development. Is that correct?
Yeah, let me go ahead and flip to those areas real quick here. Are you talking off of there's
yes.
a few islands here. There's two between Pine and Meadows Court there.
Okay. Well, are there any traffic stoplights, for instance, at Pine or anything along this section of road?
No.
Okay. Well, here's my question. is that we ride bicycles. And in order for us to get any connection to the Easter Lake area, we're going to have to cross this lane of traffic here. And that island doesn't appear big enough for a bicycle in the first place. And in the second place, traffic generally does not abide by the 35-mile-an-hour speed limit on that section of road. So now knowing that there's no traffic controls there anywhere along this stretch of road, that also brings up the question, and you may or may not know this, but on Pine, there's a bike path that terminates, that goes into the Three Lakes area down there that would connect to Easter Lake. So in lieu of any traffic control here or a safe crossing for a bicycle on Indianola, is that bike path down on Pine where it terminates, is that going to come up at any time into our east side development to give us safer access to the trail?
Yeah, we don't have any, I'm not aware of any, there's not any programs, capital improvement projects to do that. And I apologize, I don't think I have anybody from our Parks Department on to see if there's anything in the long range plan for that. I'm not aware of it.
And Steve,
well, it sounds to me then like for the most part, the east side of Indianola here, our development has been kind of left out in the cold with regard to safe access to that wider bike path or trail or whatever on the east side of the road.
This is Dave Camp. Those pedestrian refuge islands are approximately 12 feet across. So
Okay.
it's about the width of of the left turn lane just north of Pine.
Okay.
So 12 feet should be ample space for even the bicycle user to be able to use that to cross.
Okay, now, just so you know, the bikes that we use are tricycles. So
Sure.
for us to get it up on that island would be a hazard in itself. Is there actually a pass through on that island where where we would be at road level to take safe refuge on that island?
Yep, that's what it's specifically designed for, is for folks to not have to cross. You would be able to cross over. It's not just, when we call it a pedestrian refuge island, it's actually designed for, it's not just a vertical face. It's ramped down and easily accessible for you to ride right up on top,
Okay.
onto the median and cross safely. So
Okay, great. That's what I was hoping you'd tell me.
yep.
Okay, well, that's the extent of my questions then.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Yeah, and I think the standard bike is about 6 feet long. So to Dave, to your point, with the refuge island, that, like you said, should be wide enough and with the barrier curb, and then it would be kind of like the ADA accessible crossing ramps that you would use. Okay, thank you, Dana.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I have Jim Ballard. Jim, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. Okay, Jim, hopefully you can.
Yep, thanks, Steve.
Thank
So as the traffic southbound on Indianola is funneling from 2 lanes into 1 essentially, are you anticipating that means a lot of the southbound traffic on Indianola north of Army Post is going to be maneuvering east and west on Army Post rather than traveling straight through on Indianola?
Yeah, it essentially functions exactly as it does today.
Right, which isn't good.
Well, I meant the 1 lane through. Are you saying it needs 2 lanes to the south?
Well, I'm wondering what the thought process is on the fact that it has 2 lanes southbound on there collapsing into 1. That is what it does today. I guess I anticipated sort of that the reconstruction would track what was going on north of there.
Yeah, and I'd do we have some traffic folks on the line that may be able to, because based on the traffic study, we did look at that.
So
'Cause
what does the traffic study show versus north versus south of Army Post?
Do we have,
Don't know if Scott Port could maybe speak to that, or someone from JEO.
okay, let me unmute you, Scott. Oh, I can unmute. Okay, Scott?
Yes, yep. So yeah, we performed a traffic study for this intersection, and based off of the future traffic volumes, and I think it was 2045 was the outdated year that we as our study to go look at, and what are those volumes looking at based off of future development and land use and things like that. So with that, yes, with our study, the need for I should say 2-lane southbound was not necessary. There is a large volume of traffic going turning onto East Army Post Road from Indianola Avenue southbound.
And I'm anticipating that the traffic study takes into consideration the fact that there's probably less traffic between Army Post and the 69 is because that road is absolutely terrible and nobody drives on it unless they have to.
Yeah, so it was through multiple traffic counts and speed study, safety study as well. So yeah, it was taken into not only what's out there today, but also future growth as well through the year 2045. So it's taking all that into consideration.
That's correct. Yeah, it wouldn't be able to account for, roadway condition, but it is taking traffic and modeling, and then also inflating it up to 2045. If we were to build Indianola to the cross section in the north, there would be a concern for, to be honest, induced demand, where you would encourage even more people to go through the street. And like I said, it is a regional residential street, so it is obviously a street that we know will carry a decent amount of traffic. But going through the neighborhoods, we didn't want to overbuild to encourage or induce demand with the amount of residential areas.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Jim. Okay. Oops. Okay, I see Al. Al, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. Al, let me see here. Okay, Al.
Okay.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. My question is about the left turn lane at Southdale, but you don't have one at Meadow Lane. If you would study the traffic coming south from Army Post Road, I think you would find that most of the traffic into Hillsborough turns into it at Meadow Lane, not Southdale. So I'm wondering what your reasoning was there.
East Meadow Lane. Okay, sorry, I'm just jotting this down here. So really, to be honest, the traffic folks can correct me, but honestly, our main objective was to get the refuge islands in, and so by doing that, it actually, of course, it widened the road out to get the refuge islands, and we wanted to put the refuge islands in, one, to make it easier to cross, and two, also to kind of provide those choke points in the roadway to narrow it up. As Dana mentioned before, obviously we prefer to get folks down to calm traffic as much as we can with using the curb section and then also the refuge islands. So by putting the refuge islands in, it allowed the opportunity to put in the left turn lanes, but that's something we could take a look at. I don't know if our traffic folks have a different opinion on the need for the left turn lanes. To be honest, I'm not even sure if the how much the left turn lanes are warranted.
Well,
is
there's one at the next intersection down, which is Southdale Drive to the south, but you don't have one at Meadow Lane.
right, and that one again is we wanted to get the refuge island in at Southdale, so we're widening the road out. So it's kind of what do you do with the space on the north approach, and so but that's something we could take a look at in terms of our left turn lane. What I'm saying is I'm not even sure that really, if it wasn't for the refuge islands, I don't even know that the left turn lanes would be even warranted. Yeah.
Okay.
But that's
Thank
a
you.
good comment, though. I think what we can do is that we can circle back with our traffic folks, and I guess, to be honest, the question would be, with this one, should this be altered in some manner? But really, the reason for the left turn lanes is more because of the refuge islands were added. It was kind of what allotted the space for the left turn lanes on the opposite approach. Really, what it boiled down to.
All right. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm got some notes here down. Okay, I have Lynette. Lynette, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you.
Hi,
Okay,
sorry, I joined late, just got
Sure.
home, but I did catch the part where there was mention that more than 2 lanes is not needed coming south of Army Post. I live in the Meadow Chase area, in the Meadowlands Association. And currently, because it has built up so much, and I realize this project's been delayed several years, in the mornings when people are trying to get down to the bypass, the intersection at Indianola and 69 where the stoplight is, that at Indianola Avenue backs up at times clear past Meadow Chase Lane. So it's horrendous in the mornings when people are trying to leave for work. So I kind of question the thought process that we only need 2 lanes as opposed to more than that for future development, because it has built up so much already in just the last 2/3 years.
Yep, and so great question. The one thing we are proposing, and again, Scott can and Dave or others can chime in, but we did recognize the backups, and so we actually are proposing a double left turn lane for Indianola at US 69 because of the volumes that you mentioned, and then we're actually realigning Bloomfield and also East County Line Road there. We're realigning those to get those away from the intersection. So the dual left, our approach is to double the amount of storage for left turning traffic. So I don't know if Scott or Dave or anybody that.
You might even consider adding a 4th lane and have a straight only and a right turn only as opposed to the combined lanes.
Yeah, to kind of go off of Steve as well, that it is definitely going to be, so the dual there that we're putting in, as well as part of this project too, the US 69 and Indianola Avenue traffic signal will also be modified as well. And so in the sense of signal timings and such with the traffic that will be out there at the time. So that will be also part of the improvements, updating those traffic signals and timings with that. So both with the dual lefts and then designated through right as well, that should help alleviate a lot of that congestion, plus in addition of the signalization updates to help with green lights and timing for those southbound movements.
And Scott, Lynette mentioned the consideration for a need for a dedicated right turn lane, and Lynette, correct me if I'm wrong, but a dedicated right turn lane if you're southbound Indianola to head to north on 69. Was there a lot of movement there?
So
Well, I'm
Okay.
thinking in terms of the way it backs up currently. Yes, you're making a straight and a right, but if you have a dedicated right, that will also help to alleviate congestion for those people who are wanting to turn right and having to wait for the signal.
Yep, and that was definitely something too that was found in the traffic study. The major movement at this intersection for southbound was left turn through to cross Indianola going straight was an extremely low number per the traffic study and analysis. And then, so yeah, it was a little bit heavier on the right turns, but even that it wasn't, I wouldn't say heavy, but it was a lot more than the throughs because that was practically any, very little. And then, but heavy on the left. So that's where the through right kind of came in. Well, there's barely anybody even going through. So that almost that right through rights naturally, just because the traffic volumes will be acting a lot like a right turn itself. But yeah, that was definitely part of that traffic analysis and the modeling, traffic modeling that went into the design of the dual lefts and that configuration that's out there today, or that is proposed there.
And Scott,
Okay,
is that, oh, sorry, go ahead.
How much is how much further buildup is anticipated on Indianola that's in the current farmland area, particularly if it's more multi-housing, because that's really going to play into whether or not you're accurate in your assessment that 2 lanes are only needed in that area south of Army Post.
Scott, are you able to talk on how you come up with the traffic projections? Is that?
Yeah, I guess I'm not the traffic engineer that was involved on this, but we do have that study available and such. But yeah, it was kind of, we talked about beforehand, they do take into consideration for the land use, future land use of the traffic. Like I said, for the traffic study, it was a 2045 design year. What is going to be, if we're all built up, what is that proposed per the city's zoning, and so it takes all that in consideration, what in the year 2045, if it's built up with the zoning and what that type of land use is, and compile that, put it into modeling, and that's how the configurations were developed through that study.
So it's using the land use, it's using the land use maps in projecting what development happens on the corridor. And you can see here, there's kind of been some rough in of what, development there, but also projects using the land use for the development that occurs on the corridor, and then takes the volumes and then projects them up to, inflates them up to 2045.
Yep, there's a percentage increase on that. Yep.
Yeah. So it is accounting for the development based on the land use plans through Plan DSM, or if we have any indications of what development might be in these areas, it can use that as well. But primarily it's using those.
I know that when they did the most recent additions for, is it Keating properties? It's the, you show it right there on your current map. It would be at what's considered the northwest corner of the Meadow Court, Indianola. That only has minimal entrance because you guys wanted to keep entrances off of Indianola to a minimum. So you've got, I believe, 36 residences in that area with basically only 1 entrance. And when that was discussed before they put those properties up, it was admitted by one of the people on the zoning group that they may have not done the PUD very well because it is so heavily developed. At the other end of that street at the roundabout, there's like close to 70 homes. Then you've got the apartments on Meadowlands. There's 2 apartment complexes there, as well as I believe it's 3 condo associations at that point, 1 on the north side of Meadow Court, 1 on the south side, and then the Meadow Chase one. So you've already got very heavy multi-family development there, which is where my whole thought on, are 2 lanes truly enough? Are we going to have more multi-family residences, or are the ideas of future development going to be single family type homes. Because that makes a huge difference.
Okay. And I don't know, Scott or Jen, do you guys have the traffic volume, the overall volume of Indianola? Again, when we look at like just volumes in general, you know, we do want to be careful of we don't want to overbuild, because if we overbuild, then we can induce demand, and could even, you know, we would entice even more cut through traffic, which I think would certainly make the roadway even more challenging to traverse for pedestrians and other users, and also getting in and out of the neighborhoods as well.
Yeah,
Sorry.
we use the, I'm looking at the study right now, the Des Moines Area Metro Planning Organization kind of provided the 2040 annual ADTs volumes for the study year. Then of course we then projected those with, like I said before, kind of with the proposed land use additions and then up to that to the 2045 year. So with a growth rate on that. So those were, looking for the actual numbers, but that's where I do know that's where those volumes did come from initially.
Are there numbers that show what the volume of traffic was on that section of road, say 4 years ago versus now, to show the increase of traffic flow? And if there isn't, it might be something to consider.
Yeah, there typically is. There would be historical data. We'd have to check and see what they had.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. I see. We're trying and I see Andrea has her hand. Andrea, I don't know if it's not giving me an option to unmute you. Let's see here. Andrea, are you able to unmute yourself? Let's see.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
So, not to keep on the traffic flow, but correct me if I'm wrong. I thought I had seen that the traffic study was done during May 2020, which would have been the peak of quarantine. Is that correct?
The study was completed in May of 2020, but the counts were actually done the year prior, or or do you know exactly when they were, Scott? They were not done during quarantine.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm looking
that was
at,
my concern with seeing the date.
Yep, no, I'm looking at, the volumes again from MPO and stuff, and even traffic turning volumes. I'm looking right here. January 9th was right there of 2020. So early January was getting all those volumes of turning movements and things like that.
Okay, my other main question is I'm one of the driveways off of the west side of Indianola, north of Pine. And I saw that the roadway was scheduled to be closed spring 22 to winter 2022 when it would be open back up to traffic. So I guess I was just curious on what driveway access for us would look like during that time, since you're moving utilities, sewers, I'm assuming utility poles.
Yeah, and this is kind of the similar to the other sections of Indianola. We maintain access as much as possible to both the residents and the folks along here. But what we try and do is not allow through traffic, so that the folks coming in from Indianola or something like that. So we reduce that. But if we restrict it to local traffic, so you'll still maintain access to your driveway as much as possible. So you won't be without access to your home for months at a time. So but we try and discourage, a lot of drive-through traffic. Does that?
Okay, I was just concerned with like the installation of a sewer, if that would then impact driveway access.
Well, you know, and we do this quite frequently where there is a lot of the benefit out here is there is a lot of room between you know, I think the right of way is extraordinarily wide through here. So we're going to be able to work on the sewer down, you know, along the roadway, but we'll still be able to say put a gravel path behind, you know, alongside of the road to maintain access to the residents through there. We haven't gone through and developed a specific access plan yet. We just wanted to, you know, we didn't want to come today and say, hey, we've already figured everything out, and so we're here to get your input, and then we'll develop a staging plan and some of the detailed how does everyone get back to their house. But you will maintain access throughout the project. So.
Okay, and then my last question, I had a few.
Yep.
Was at the intersection that you have on the screen right now with Army Post and Indianola. I frequently turn right onto Army Post at that intersection to access the bypass, then going the opposite direction of access from 69. And I constantly drive on the shoulder when traffic's stacked up. So I was just, everybody's asked about turn lanes at 69, but is there a consideration for a right-hand turn lane going northbound onto Army Post?
Let's see.
Yeah.
That's probably something we can look into and see what does it stack up there and back up for folks going straight through the intersection? Is that the issue?
Yeah, so everybody going straight is, yeah, backed up, and I try not to do it if there's a bunch of cars because I feel like it's super rude, but in a spot where you would normally be able to turn right on a red, you're then sitting and waiting for that light.
Okay, that's something we can look into and see what we can develop there. So.
Yeah, and a couple things. Yeah, that is definitely that intersection too would also be part of another traffic signal modification as well, with this signal timings and such with the new traffic volumes as well. So and turning movement. So that intersection will also be updated as part of this project with the signalizations.
Awesome. Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay, let's see here. Let's see if there's any more questions or comments. I'll wait just a minute here. Okay, all right, let me first let me go to I see Leroy's iPad, and then I see Lynette. Let me do Leroy's Leroy. Let me unmute you. Okay, Leroy.
Yes, I've got a couple questions. One, between Army Post and Pine, are they going to run an actual sewer line? Or is that storm sewer?
Dave, let me, oops, sorry, Dave. I muted Dave, sorry. Yeah.
Are you asking a sanitary sewer or a storm sewer?
Sanitary sewer.
Sanitary. We're working with our public works department and trying to incorporate areas out here that may not have access to sanitary. And so we're working that direction. We don't have that exact answer at this exact moment, but that's something we're looking at incorporating along that stretch of roadway. Because I think everybody south of Pine probably has access to sanitary based on the developments. It's just north of Pine, correct? Is the way I understood it.
Correct. That's where
Yeah.
I'm at.
Yep. So yeah, I think especially with the development going in along the northwest corner of Pine and Indianola, I don't know where they're actually, if they're bringing in new sanitary or they're connecting to some of the existing infrastructure, but that is definitely something we're looking into, bringing sanitary up for the folks along Indianola, north of Pine.
Another question on the trail side on the west side, is that maintained by the city then for snow removal?
Yes, that will be maintained by the city, yes.
Okay, and another question. I noticed just north of Pine, you have looks like something going to the west. Is that where the proposed trailer park is going to expand?
That is the latest, the information we have, that where the access for that development is. We'll continue to coordinate with the location of where that access is if it changes or modifies. But that's the latest information we had. And so we just kind of put it in as a location.
Okay, but that is at this point a proposed addition to that trailer park?
That's the latest information that we're aware of, yes. But that is subject to change.
Okay. How about right across from me? I thought Des Moines Public Schools owned an area there for a proposed junior high or middle school and elementary. Is that still in the works?
I know that they own that piece of property out there. I don't know what the actual schedule or program is, because it kind of was supposed to be built X many years ago, then it didn't go. And so I'm not 100% sure what the schedule is for that property and what they're going to build. But yes, you are correct. The Des Moines School does own that section of property, but I do not know the proposed plans or time frame of what they're developing there.
But you wouldn't be taking that into account now, the traffic flow there.
What we would have looked at, and Scott, tell me if I'm, is that is developable ground. So I think they would have taken into account that maybe it wasn't a particular school, but it is developable ground kind of thing. So I think
Right,
that was taken into account.
But a school, there's a lot of people drop their children off now. That would add a tremendous amount of traffic.
Yeah, and if you look around, even up at Jackson Elementary along Indianola, it is very difficult to account for all the drop-off traffic. Even up at Jackson, we put in that very long drop-off lane and turnaround and everything else, and they still line the street up, kind of thing.
But that's 4 lanes wide up there too. This would only be 2.
Right, and so that's where they would probably have to, coordinate. And like you say, I don't know exactly what type of school is, and if it is planned there or not. So,
I think that's, one other thing too is even if whatever development happens, they still would need to do a more refined traffic study. But just to give you kind of a reference in general, I think we're looking at the historical counts. There was probably, I think there was 3,300 vehicles back in 2012. And so then the traffic study, and I don't have that number in front of me, but the 3,300 vehicles a day to go to a 4 or 5 lane road, we'd be looking more like 20,000 vehicles a day would warrant that. So we're not even remotely close to the traffic volumes for to go to a 4 or 5 lane roadway. And so that comes back to where, again, we don't want to way overbuild, because then there's induced demand where you would just, people would go there because it's wide open and several lanes wide, you know. So but if a school type, depending on whatever would happen on the site that's owned by the school, they would also have to do a study, and at that time there may need to be modifications. It could be things like turning lanes off of Indianola, or perhaps modifications up at the intersection of Army Post as well.
Okay, well, thank you.
And then a new school would need to be designed to accommodate the drop off on site as well. You know, obviously, a lot of the examples we have, the school that my kids go to on the east side of Des Moines, it's been there a while. So obviously we do deal with the challenges of a school that was designed, 40 years ago, to be honest. Okay. Thank you, Leroy.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, I have Lynette. Lynette, let me unmute you. Oh, let's see if I can. There we go. Okay.
You had forgotten to remute me, so I unmuted myself. There was mention previously about one of the things that'll be done when it's completed is that the timing of the light signals will be adjusted. I don't know how that kind of stuff is done. Is it possible to perhaps adjust some of the timing on the Indianola 69 light prior to construction being completed? That might alleviate some of the congestion, in particular in the morning rush.
That's a good question, and I would have to. I will take that back to our traffic engineers and see. I know we are now. That is a state route. But on our city corridors, we are going through. Now we have 425 signals, so it will take us quite a while, but a few years. But we're going through and updating the timings on a lot of our corridors of our city corridors. But I would have to check on that one being a state route. But that's a good question. Could the timings be updated or optimized sooner than the project?
Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, Dana Brenneman. Let me unmute you, Dana. Oh.
Okay, am I good?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, I just have one last comment, and this is regarding Indianola northbound at Army Post Road, that intersection. It was stated earlier that it would be nice to have a right turn lane in that spot headed north. And, I got to thinking about that, and I agree with that. First, I was rear-ended, stopped for that light headed north at one time. But thinking of a matter of consistency, if you're looking at the busy times of the day, which is people going to work and people coming home, there's going to be a crush of people in both directions at that intersection during those times. And so you've got that dedicated right hand and left hand turn built into southbound. And it would seem to me that for the same reason you did it on the southbound, you should be doing it on the northbound as well.
Yep, thank you. And I know I'd have to check back with our traffic folks. The southbound would, the right turn lanes are typically warranted off of the amount of volumes during the peak hour that are making the right turn movement. So I guess the only thing that could make the characteristics different would be as if there is a substantially more amount of southbound right turners to westbound than there are northbound right turners to eastbound. That would be one. That would be obviously a difference that may warrant one over
the only
the
reason that I even have any concern about that is the fact that I was rear-ended stopped at that light.
Yep. Okay. Okay.
And that's my last 2 cents in my pocket.
Okay. Thank you, Dana. Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Leroy, let me unmute Leroy here. Okay, Leroy, let me try and unmute you here. Leroy, I apologize. Are you able to unmute yourself? Let me try that. Let's Leroy, let's see if you can unmute yourself. I see you got your hand up. Leroy?
This is Jane Shadle.
Jane? Hello, Jane?
Yes. I have a question, but I'm unable to raise my hand.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Jane. Thank you. We can.
Concern about the design concern about the berm on the east side of the Indianola Avenue at the Hillsborough Estates. Because you are widening the road on that side of the road, I'm concerned that you will be cutting into the berm and maybe undermining the integrity of that berm which supports that row of trees. Will there be a brick wall or something to support that berm as you cut into the west edge of it?
Let's see if I can, Dave, I don't know if you could.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
I know we haven't done the design yet, but maybe
I'm trying to pull up some of the cross sections.
Survey.
Yeah, because I just seeing how close we actually come to that berm for one, and then two, if we did come near it, yeah, we would put up a retaining wall to support it. And I didn't know if Zach, you were able to pull up maybe some of the preliminary cross sections and see how close we got to the berm.
And one thing to keep in mind though, I think, oh yeah, that's you're saying for the refuge islands would be, yeah, we'd have to look at, I guess to answer your question though, when we do the design, we'll have to look into that. But the comment is definitely taken that, we need, preserving the berm, preserving the berm for screening purposes, and also preserving the berm itself structurally.
Great, thank you. That will be important for us.
Okay, thank you. I'll just try one more. Leroy, I didn't know if I see you have your hand up, Leroy. Did you have another a comment or question? Okay. Okay. Are there any other questions or comments? I really appreciate all this. I've heard things. We talked a lot about traffic. like I said, from the historical data, when we're looking at volumes of around 3,300 vehicles a day, typically a road of this nature can easily handle anywhere from, when you have turn lanes, it can be up to 15,000, sometimes up to 20,000 vehicles a day. So we're not even really close to the volumes to warrant the multi-lane roadway, even using the anticipated land uses. And so we heard discussion on traffic, but we did hear comments on, I think obviously we recorded this as well, but a couple comments about the right turn lane, consideration for a right turn lane from Indianola northbound to eastbound Army Post Road, with comments of one rear end collision that occurred, and also traffic volumes as well. So that's something that we will have to take a look at and go back and circle back with our traffic consultant to see what the volumes were and crash data were for that location. I heard comments on sanitary sewer where we need to, I know we're circling back with our public works to see the planning if a sanitary sewer would be installed, whether or not a sanitary sewer would be installed with in coordination with this project. I also heard comments on the question, a good one, of updating the signal timings. Could that be done sooner? Is there anything that could be done before the project? I know we're obviously making improvements with the project with adding the dual left turn lanes, which would affect the timings. But is there any timings that could be done in the interim, knowing that it is a state route? But we can check that. And obviously we just had the comment as well on the preservation of the screening, the berm along the property, along the neighborhood as well. So again, this is I would like to remind everybody, we are in conceptual design, so we've not started detailed design. So these are things that we'll work on as we start the design process. If you are, or you have neighbors or that may have not been able to make this presentation, I would please ask that you note that, again, Zach Erickson is our project engineer. Please don't hesitate to shoot Zach some comments if you think of things after the meeting, or you have neighbors that think of things. I would also like to remind everyone on our webpage, dsm.city, you can also find information about the project, and we will also be posting this PowerPoint and posting this meeting recording as well. And again, that's also where you can again find Zach's information as well to ask further questions. So. And then one thing I also had in my notes, I didn't circle it here, was the question about the southbound movement turning into East Meadow Lane instead of going all the way to Southdale. I had that one from Al as well. So that's a question we got to circle back through our traffic folks. So, okay. All right.
I just kicked out, kicked back in.
All right. Do I have any other last comments or questions? All right, everybody. Well, hearing none, I can't thank everyone enough. I appreciate it. We had nearly 30 participants. I appreciate that, and I appreciate all the staff that joined in. I appreciate our council members listening in as well, and neighborhood president Jim Ballard as well. Thank you all for all your time. I appreciate this, and like I said, I know we're a couple years away, but the design now our next phase is to start working through the detailed design. So without further ado, I hope everyone has a great night, and thank you so much for joining us.